Tangam. Welcome to GullyClassroom. This is the fourth lecture in the chapter Globalization and Indian Economy in CBSE 10th Standard Economics Chapter 4 Globalization and Indian Economy. This is the fourth lecture taken in English. Sir, what are we going to study in this lecture? We are going to study about SEZ, Special Economic Zones and its role in globalization. Then we will study about the negative impacts of globalization. Finally, we will study about the struggle for fair globalization. The struggle for fair globalization. Yeah? Can we start the lecture? Cheers. Let's go for it. First, we will study about SEZ, Special Economic Zones. All the foreign companies are coming in investing in India. What is the government doing to encourage, to attract the foreign companies to come and invest in India? The foreign companies to come and invest in India. The foreign companies are attracted to invest in India by the government, by the use of SEZ. What is SEZ? Special Economic Zones. Special Economic Zones are simply a geographical area where we have world-class facilities. What kind of facilities, sir? Electricity, water, roads, transportation, storage, recreational facilities, educational facilities. All these facilities are created in a particular area so that the MNCs, multinational corporations, can come to India, invest their money, put their production centers in SEZ, Special Economic Zones, and manufacture their product for sales both to the Indian market and also for export. So SEZ is basically an opportunity for the MNCs to set their production units in a well-developed area. That particular SEZ will have world-class facilities of roads, transport, water, and anything that is needed for the working of a company. In fact, when you are doing production in a SEZ production units need not pay taxes for the initial 5 years. For how many years they did not pay taxes? A production unit manufacturing in SEZ need not pay taxes for the initial 5 years. Also, the government is showing flexibility in labor laws. The government is allowing the companies to ignore the labor laws, protecting the workers in organized sector. Instead of hiring permanent workers, the corporates, the MNCs are feeling comfortable hiring temporary workers for flexible short periods of time. Why, sir? Because temporary workers can handle intense pressure at reduced labor costs. They want to reduce the money spent on producing the goods. They want to bring the labor costs down. So the government is allowing the organized sector to ignore labor laws. So this is how the government is attracting the MNCs. Okay, sir. What is the effect of globalization on small producers? With respect to small producers, what is the effect of globalization on small producers? Small producers are suffering under globalization. It is do or die, compete or perish. Either you are going to compete with the MNCs or you are literally going to die, you are going to perish. That is the condition of small producers with respect to globalization. Small producers, traders and workers are facing major challenges. Let us take the case of a couple of traders who are selling clothes. How can these traders compete with the MNCs who have such large networks by which they market their goods, who have such a large investment in order to take the goods to the final end consumer? The small producers, traders and workers will not be able to compete with the very large MNCs. So they are facing major challenges. Small industries in India are the second largest employer. Around 20 million people are working in small industries. It is the second largest employer next to agriculture. These small industries are facing global competition. and they are being hit hard. The small industries are hit hard. So what kind of industries are we talking about here? We are talking about batteries, capacitors, industries which produce batteries, capacitors, plastic industries, toys, tire industries, dairy product industries, and vegetable oil. Sir, give me a case study on how one of these industries is being affected by globalization. Let us take the case of a capacitor industry. A capacitor industry in India is obviously going to produce capacitors that are used in Indian products. The specification of these capacitors will be for Indian made goods. When a MNC is coming to India, their specifications will be different. So when the sales of MNCs is increasing up, this capacitor industry needs to do R&D, research and development, and develop new capacitors, or else this capacitor industry will fail because they are not able to sell capacitors for MNCs. When MNCs are coming to India, what are they doing? They are taking up the market which is held by the Indian industries. So batteries and capacitor industries who are supplying for Indian industries, Indian televisions, Indian washing machines, and Indian electronic goods must design their products in such a way so that they can sell it to MNCs. And these industries fight for contracts, fight for these very large MNC contracts, and this is used by the MNCs to get favorable contracts, Okay, let us look at what is the condition of, workers with respect to globalization. Workers are facing uncertain employment with respect to globalization. Due to globalization, MNCs are getting very huge profits, but the workers are not getting their due share. To get very large orders from the MNCs, the Indian exporters are cutting their own costs because they are competing with each other, and the MNCs will simply give the huge contract to whoever is going to give them the optimum quotation, whichever local company is going to give lesser price for their products. Okay, so how are the local producers and exporters going to produce goods at lesser price? The raw material cost cannot be reduced, so the exporters are cutting their labor costs. The permanent workers are replaced by temporary workers. During peak season, these workers are expected to work long working hours, night shifts on a regular basis at very low wages, and forced overtime is very common. All these hardships are very common to most of the industrial units and services in India. These hardships are very common to most of the industrial units and services in India. So if you look at it, the benefits of globalization are not actually fair. They are biased towards MNCs. The common people, the common wage earner does not get the benefit of the globalization. That is the struggle for fair globalization. A globalization which is benefiting all sectors of people, all segments of people equally can be called as fairer globalization. But in reality, the common man is not able to get the life he desires because globalization is favoring people with good education, skill and wealth, with new opportunities. It is not giving many people the benefits that they desire. So fair globalization must create opportunities for all. It must ensure that the benefits of globalization are shared in an even manner between each and every people. Who is going to take a leading role in ensuring fairer globalization? Obviously our government, not just our government, each and every government must play a major role in making fairer globalization a reality. How, sir? First, policies must be done to protect all the interests of people, not just the rich and the powerful, not just the rich and the powerful. Interest of all people must be protected, labor laws must be properly implemented, and workers must get their rights. Small producers must be supported such that they can improve their production performance to global level. The trade and investment barriers must be put in place such that they will protect the small producers. They will protect the small producers. So, the policies must be enabled, labor laws must be implemented, small producers must be allowed to improve their performance, trade and investment barriers must be put into place. Is this enough, sir? No. The government must play a role with respect to WTO. What kind of a role? The government must negotiate with WTO for fairer rules. Also, it must align. What is aligning? Putting in the same direction. For example, lion A is aligned with lion B. A is aligned with lion B. So, the government must align, the country's government must align with other developing countries with similar interests, and they should trade with each other and improve themselves. The government must fight against the domination of the developed countries in WTO. The WTO was initially started by developed countries for their own interests. So, the governments, the countries must fight against the domination of developed countries in WTO. That is basically how the government is going to make fairer globalization possible. Yeah, that's the end of the lecture. Sir, how are we going to study this particular lecture? Concentrate on these two ends. Concentrate on SEZ, Special Economic Zone, has the 2 mark. Concentrate on fairer globalization, has the 2 mark. Concentrate on these two parts. With respect to efforts of globalization of small producers, it is a 3-star question. So you can study a couple of points from it. Hope you guys enjoyed this lecture. Thanks for listening to me. If you like our lecture, click the like button, subscribe to us. Let us grow together. Cheers and thank you. I am having so much fun teaching to you guys. See you guys in the next lecture. Cheers and thank you. See you guys in the next lecture. Cheers and thank you.